Let's start by going back to the very beginning of time, or at least what we understand as the beginning. Genesis 1 verse 1 tells us, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Here, faith introduces us to a creator, someone who planned, designed, and lovingly shaped all things. Faith tells us why everything exists. God, in his love, decided to create the universe, the earth, and everything in it, including us. Faith gives us purpose and understanding of the world as part of God's creation. But what is science? Science is our way of learning about this creation. It's how we explore the wonders of God's world. In Proverbs 25 verse 2, we read, "It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search it out." This verse suggests that while God may have hidden some things within creation, it's noble to seek them out and discover them. The pursuit of knowledge through science can actually be a journey toward understanding God's wisdom. Let's take a moment to think about the skies. Imagine looking up at the stars at night. Each star is like a tiny light in a huge, dark sky. Long ago, people believed stars were small and close to us. But scientists, by studying the heavens, discovered that stars are actually giant balls of burning gas, millions of miles away. They're far bigger than our minds can imagine. Psalm 19 verse 1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands." Science has shown us the vastness and beauty of space, which makes the idea of God as the creator even more awe-inspiring. Science and faith may seem different, but they're both ways of understanding the world. Faith tells us that God made everything, and science gives us tools to discover how. Jesus himself used examples from nature to teach about God's kingdom. He talked about seeds growing, about lilies and sparrows. He wanted us to look at creation and learn more about God. However, there are times when science and faith appear to disagree. For example, science explains that the earth is billions of years old, while some interpretations of the Bible suggest a much younger earth. But here's something important to remember. The Bible was written to help people know God and understand his love, not to serve as a science textbook. Many faithful people believe that when the Bible describes creation, it's not giving us a scientific blueprint but rather telling us that everything exists because of God's purpose and design. Romans 1 verse 20 says, "For since the creation of the world God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse." This means that by studying the world, through science, we can learn more about God's power and creativity. Imagine if we lived in a world without curiosity or questions. We wouldn't have medicines to heal us, tools to build homes, or technology to connect us. God gave us minds to think, wonder, and explore. In the New Testament, Paul encouraged Timothy to guard what has been entrusted to your care. Turn away from godless chatter and the opposing ideas of what is falsely called knowledge. 1 Timothy 6 verse 20. Paul wasn't against learning. He was warning Timothy about ideas that pull people away from God's truth. When science is used to seek truth, it can work together with faith. Another example is the study of our own bodies. Scientists have learned about our cells, our organs, and our brains. Psalm 139 verse 14 says, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." By understanding how our bodies work, doctors can find cures and treatments for diseases. Each discovery, from the smallest cell to the largest organ, reflects the intricate design God used when he created us. We see science as a gift, something God allows us to use to care for one another. Finally, let's remember that both faith and science ask us to trust. Science requires us to trust that what we discover through careful study is real, while faith invites us to trust in God's love and his promises. Hebrews 11 verse 1 defines faith as confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Faith and science may ask different questions, but they don't have to fight. They're two ways of looking at the same world, a world filled with mystery and wonder, pointing us back to a creator who is bigger and wiser than we can ever imagine. Can God and the Big Bang coexist? Unpacking the faith-science conflict. Let's turn now to another big question, the idea of the Big Bang and whether it fits with believing in God. The Big Bang Theory suggests that our universe began billions of years ago with a massive explosion of energy, which eventually formed galaxies, stars, planets, and everything else. For some people, the Big Bang seems to explain the beginning of the universe without needing God. But let's look deeper. First, Genesis 1 verse 1 starts with, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." It doesn't tell us exactly how. It only says that God created everything. This leaves room for the idea that God might have used an event like the Big Bang to bring the universe into being. Imagine a spark that lights a campfire. Before the fire, there was darkness, and then the spark brings light and warmth. In the same way, the Big Bang might have been God's spark, igniting the universe into existence. Hebrews 11 verse 3 says, "By faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible." This verse aligns with the idea of the Big Bang. Something came from nothing, but only because of God's power. Some might argue, if the Big Bang was real, doesn't that make God unnecessary? But think about this. Who or what caused the Big Bang? Even scientists wonder about what came before it. For believers, the answer is clear. It was God. Psalm 33 verse 6 says, "By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, their starry host by the breath of his mouth." God's voice, his very word, was powerful enough to create everything. Whether he chose to use the Big Bang or another method, it was his command that brought the universe into existence. Another idea scientists talk about is fine-tuning. Our universe is so perfectly designed that even a tiny change would mean we couldn't exist. The Earth is at just the right distance from the sun. The air we breathe has the perfect balance of oxygen. If any of these things were different, life would not survive. This points to a designer, a creator who carefully planned every detail. In Job 38 verse 4, God asks, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation?" This reminds us that only God truly knows the universe's secrets, for he is the one who made it. Finally, let's talk about God's relationship with time. The Bible says in 2 Peter 3 verse 8, "With the Lord a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day." Time doesn't limit God like it does for us. If the universe is billions of years old, that doesn't conflict with God's role as creator. He exists outside of time. He can create something in an instant, or he can take his time. In the end, the Big Bang and God's creation don't have to be in conflict. Faith shows us that God is the reason behind everything. Science, including the Big Bang Theory, is simply one way of understanding how God brought his creation into existence. God's power and mystery are beyond what we can fully grasp, but as we seek answers, both science and faith can bring us closer to understanding his greatness. Just as Romans 1 verse 20 reminds us, since the creation of the world God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. Faith and science aren't enemies. They are companions in our journey to understand God's vast, wondrous universe. And as we grow in our knowledge, may we always give thanks to the one who made it all possible.